Hello and welcome to the Homeschool with Moxie podcast. I'm your host, Abby Banks, and this is episode 319. I'm so glad you're here today because we've got a great guest joining us, and that is Colonel Bill Davis. He's the National Executive Director of the Young Marines. So if you've never heard of the Young Marines, they're an amazing youth leadership and development program for kids ages 8 through high school. They're all about building self-esteem, leadership skills, self-discipline, and helping kids stay healthy and drug-free, all while having fun and staying active. So whether your kids are interested in the military or you're just looking for ways to help them grow in their character and their confidence, you're going to love this conversation. You can find the show notes at 4onemore.com/319. So let's dive in. Here's my chat with Colonel Bill Davis about the Young Marines. Colonel Davis, welcome to the Homeschool with Moxie podcast.
Hey, thank you so much, Abby, for having me today. I'm really excited about this opportunity to talk with you and all your listeners across the Pennsylvania area and outside. Yeah, this is great.
So let's jump into talking about the Young Marines, because I'm going to say some listeners are not going to even have heard of the Young Marines. So can you give us an overview of the program, kind of what makes it unique? There's a lot of youth programs out there. What makes the Young Marines stand out?
Yeah, it's funny. We talk about, last year we had about 5,000 kids in the program in 40 states and 200 locations. But you're a big program, but you're not a big program when it's only 5,000. So you look kind of big in one aspect, but you're really not when you look at other huge programs. So a lot of people don't know about us. But we were started in 1959 by some veterans up in Waterbury, Connecticut, decided that some kids, they looked around and said, these young gentlemen need a little bit of structure and discipline to help them be successful in life. And so they applied that. And then in 1965, we actually were made into a corporation and then a 501c3 nonprofit in 1980. And I will add that it, was prescient of these people that in 1974, we became a co-ed program. And I say that most people don't understand the history that it wasn't until 1976 that women could go to the military service academies. So we actually became co-ed before that was even in DoD policy. But we focus on leadership first, as I mentioned, citizenship through community service, with a lot of that focused on our nation's veterans. And then lastly, in a big part, living a healthy, drug-free lifestyle. So, talk about your fitness and sleep and building resilience and staying away from the perils of illegal drugs, which is a larger issue again in our country when you read the papers.
So it sounds like the core values you guys are instilling in kids, this is really important for youth right now. What do you see? Like, have you seen a change over the years in like the necessary, necessary to instill these things in the kids? Have you seen a change in the last decade or so?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And as I mentioned, I retired in 2011 from the Marine Corps in New Orleans and helped build a charter high school there. So that was my first exposure, other than, being involved with my two boys' various academic endeavors. I was a chairman of a school board at a military base for a few years. So, education became more in my blood. So I guess it wasn't surprising that I ended up in youth development and education and retirement. But the 4 years in high school, 10 years here at Young Marines, I have seen the challenges. And of course, a big one is, COVID. And I think the biggest impact for COVID was the lack of socialization. When the children didn't have the opportunity to interact, it all sounded good. Oh, kids will live online and they'll they'll do their video and all that stuff. There's still a social component to human nature where we prefer the personal interaction back and forth. And so that's something I've seen. The other thing is fitness. As you look at the statistics nationwide, obesity is on the rise, diabetes is on the rise. Drug usage has always been a challenge. And now because of social media, it is so much easier to acquire things that used to be more difficult. All these challenges for our kids. And of course, we talked about social media, the challenges there. All that time on the screen is time taken away from free play and socialization and actual physical encountering. those have created as the title of the book, a great book out there, The Anxious Generation, that really details some of these impacts. And that's a great book for anyone to read to talk about fundamentals of youth development. So these are the challenges I've seen, and it's almost prescient that this program really keys into socialization and personal development and physical exercise and nutrition and diet. It's providence is a term I like to use,
Mhm.
that we have this program and that I happen to be fortunate and honored enough to lead it right now.
So, is this program only for kids interested in the military, or is it broader than that? What do you see your kids go into, or how, like what
Yeah.
percentage might go into the military after they're done?
Yeah, it's funny. Okay, the name is Young Marines. We
Hmm.
wear uniforms. There is that military structure to it. But what I'll tell everyone is we are primarily, first and foremost, we are a youth development program. And I'm a really horrible recruiter because I mean, having done it myself, seen other people go through it, that's not my job. My mission is youth development, but we want to prepare kids. Yeah, a large chunk of the kids in the Young Marines, boys and girls, come in with an interest in the military. What I like to say is that if you have that interest, about half of we have 1,800 volunteers helping run this program. I got a little bitty staff of 9 here in Virginia, but about half our volunteers are veterans. So those young men and women that think they may want to join the military, they're going to hear from people that have been in, and they'll have a much better understanding of what it is and what it isn't and what it takes. So what I like to say is that if you have an interest and you're in this program, you're going to have a good idea. Is that lifestyle for you or not? And if it is, great, then you're going to be prepared. But really about 30% of young Marines will go on to serve. And surprisingly, it's not just Marine Corps because our volunteers come across a lot of branches. I don't advocate for any of that. If you want to serve, I'll talk to you about serving.
Hmm.
But always my second question is make sure you understand that, one, understand the nature of service. Two, understand that each service is different. You need to go where you feel comfortable or where you best are employed.
Hmm.
But writ large, for career path is the same thing. The military is not for everyone. Some people have reasons why they can't serve. Others, it's just not for them. And you don't want them to go where they're not going to
Hmm.
fit. So what does happen is probably our second biggest group of young Marines go on to be first responders and then teachers. And the reason why is when we get into this whole healthy drug-free lifestyle and we talk about what we call drug demand reduction education, educating kids about the perils of, legal drugs and misuse of prescription drugs, that a lot of those lessons are coming from, police and fire and nurses and doctors and EMTs. And so they're exposed to those career paths. I think it's great because it's like, wow, I never actually talked to a fireman or a police officer or a sheriff or a EMT, And so we expose them to those career paths and a lot of them go that direction. And of course, teaching, the nature of the program is the longer you're in the program, we expect older young Marines to take over the teaching duties. The adult volunteers are there to coach, guide, and mentor, but eventually, hey, young Marine, Jones, it's your turn to teach this class. And a lot of them get the teaching bug because they had that opportunity to teach others. And I'll hear it from them. They'll tell me, Carl Davis, it was so cool watching kids begin to understand. And that's why I said, I want to be a teacher. I want to continue to do this. So those are like the three biggest, outcomes: military, first responder, teaching, and then I got a little of everything else. I have a few more young Marines getting into the trades now, welding and construction. I'm seeing a lot more of that too, which is awesome because those are great jobs with long career paths, and we don't have enough of them in this country.
That is very cool. So, tell us about the kind of activities the young Marines do in the program. What can parents expect if they sign their kids up?
Yeah. Oh no, thanks. Yeah. So, we have the program is structured so that most of the units will meet, it's evenings and weekends. I have a few actual school-based units. Most of the programs are evenings and weekends, churches, schools, veterans organizations like the American Legion, civil organizations like the Elks. I mean, the Elks are big supporters. I know there's one in Lancaster where the Elks work with the Young Marine units. But most of the time when you go to a quote unquote drill, we'll get everyone in, get them all signed in, checked aboard, and then they will probably do a little bit of physical fitness. They may do a little bit of marching. There'll be some classes, and then there'll be some other fun activities and a traditional drill. Because the program is structured, wear this uniform, you earn ribbons for activities that you do and classes that you do, and then you get promoted also through your activities. So like one weekend it could be a fire safety. So you get your fire safety ribbon. Usually fire department comes in, teaches the class, you get your fire safety ribbon, and you need that to get promoted through the program. Other activities, though, like I said, a lot of community service. I mean, we do it all. I mean, of course, obviously, we do a lot of stuff with veterans, as I mentioned. We have a great working relationship with Toys for Tots around the country. We've done, disaster response. I've had young Marine units go and help clean up after tornadoes and hurricanes. We've helped clean up beaches and rivers and parks. A little of everything helping. I know that units up in Connecticut work with Special Olympics. Other units, they do support the Special Olympics, church events, just, that community service aspect. Fitness runs, we've done that. So that's at the unit level. At the national level, we sponsor programs during the summer and also the regions sponsor. A lot of them will do weekend camps where they'll go out and do a weekend in a camp. They'll do fun activities. I've seen it all, duck, duck, goose, tag, freeze tag, whatever. All that free play stuff that is great for youth development that you need to have combined with those classes I mentioned for promotion. We do a lot of what they do drill and marching, which is a good leadership development. But we also, we're doing the drilling and the marching. We also do land navigation. And it's not, hey, Google, tell me how to get there, or Waze or whatever you're using. No kidding, maps and compasses, learning how to do land navigation in the woods and fields. That's another big activity that we do. But the summer programs that we have, aside from the camps, we've done Outdoor Odyssey is up in Pennsylvania, Johnstown area, where the kids do activities in the woods, but they also learn about leadership, mental, moral, physical, spiritual, being a good leader. We've done Space Camp, we've done Flight Academy in Pensacola, cyber camps. I do tend to have a lot of outdoor type activities in the summer for our young Marines. And the reason why is because a lot of kids don't get outdoors anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an important component of life is getting out into nature. It's just is what it is. And I would end with the other thing we do nationally is major veterans events throughout the year. We do the National Memorial Day Parade in DC. We usually in the summer, in fact, in a couple weeks here, probably about 90 to 100 young Marines are going to gather in Window Rock, Arizona for Navajo Code Talker Day, where we meet, you get to meet people on the Navajo Nation on the reservation and you interact and meet with them and you learn history firsthand from World War II veterans, but also the spiritual aspects of the Navajo people and their history and culture. We end the year on a high note in December. It's tough. Someone's got to do it, but we go out to Pearl Harbor. And we that Pearl Harbor evolution for 4 days. We do hikes. We learn about Hawaiian culture. We do our own memorial service at the National Cemetery for the Pacific, and then we are the banner carriers for the National Pearl Harbor Remembrance Parade, where we carry all the banners and a lot of the flags. And also we've had these opportunities to interact with World War II veterans of Pearl Harbor. Just amazing evolution. There's a lot more, but I think I've already given you a lot.
That's amazing. I did not realize. Wow, that to be involved in those kind of things, that is really life-changing. That's amazing. So tell us where across the whole country, where are your units located? Do you have to be near a city? Are they in every state? Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, we are really kind of everywhere scattered about. I would tell you first up in Pennsylvania, we have 8 units in Pennsylvania. There's 3 kind of towards the Pittsburgh area, just outside to the south, and then the other 5 are kind of over to the Midwest from about Lancaster, Gettysburg to the east is where our units are right now. And then of course we have units in another 200 plus units around the country in 40 states. South Dakota, North Dakota, a little tougher. Nevada, I'm working on one. It may come online soon. But they're kind of scattered all around the country. If you go to our website, www.youngmarines.org, there's actually right on that front page, there'll be a little thing that says find a unit. You hit the button, put in your zip code, and it'll pop up the closest units to you, or you can just look on the map that's there. Now, if there isn't a unit near you, we'll work with you on building a unit. You just need, three adults who can, has to have a background check and letters of reference,
Mhm.
and we can help build a new unit somewhere. And we're not constrained. I mean, a lot of people are familiar with JROTC, which is kind of similar, but that's for high school, and that's a whole different program. But we do a lot of these same things that they do. But our units can be 3, 5, 10. I've got units that are 60 and 70 kids full. But we're much more flexible, and we go from ages 8 to high school. So a lot more flexible, a lot larger, and we have a lot more, fun opportunities during the summer and throughout the year. I'm not knocking JROTC. I did it myself, but it's a high school program, it's a class, and they just don't do all the activities like we do. We do more throughout the year. They do plenty, but we do a lot more activities throughout the year, and I say we're a little more fun too because hey, it's young Marines.
So it sounds like if there was like a homeschool co-op that had a sizable group that says, "Hey, we want to do this," you could work with them to set up their a new unit.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
And I will say we've had, in fact, my National Young Marine of the Year a couple of years ago, Jason Glasscox out of Tennessee, Mount Airy, homeschooled.
Hmm.
His parents saw this. He did sports through a traveling basketball team. His socialization and was Young Marines.
Mm-hmm.
And for 10 years, he did the Young Marines program, and that was like his extracurricular activity
Yes.
because it provided a structured engagement,
Mm-hmm.
program for him
Mm-hmm.
with good, conservative, fundamental
Mm-hmm.
values kind of
Good.
program. But yeah, oh yeah,
Yeah.
we're happy to work with anyone
Mm-hmm.
here at the headquarters and in the regions. If there's units nearby, they'll help you get set up. But it really is because of that socialization aspect, because of
Mm-hmm.
that structured aspect,
Mm-hmm.
we find, like I said, there's many more, kids that I just personally interact with at the senior level that I know are coming from a homeschool background, and their parents and the kids have said, this was a great for me because it gave me opportunities to interact, to engage with. The classes are usually very complimentary
Mm-hmm.
in terms of what they're learning at home, with their parents and their co-ops.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's a really great complementary activity and structured, and it will stay with the children from 8
Mm-hmm.
to high school.
For sure. So, how have you seen kids grow, like in their confidence and their character and life skills as a result of being involved? Do you have any great stories you can tell us?
It's funny. Every year, so we're broken in. When you go on that map on our website at youngmarines.org, you'll see the map and it has color coding. We're broken into 6 regions or 6 divisions,
Hmm.
and then the regiments and the states are broken out below it. We hold these competitions for Regimental Young Marine of the Year, Division Young Marine of the Year, National Young Marine of the Year. And I always ask the kids during these sessions and during these promotion. Oh yeah, and for all of those, and for each individual promotion as well as for these competitions, you're doing interviews.
Mm.
So from a workforce standpoint, you're getting practice in interviewing at a young age, building that confidence as well, sitting in front of a panel, people asking you. What I hear from most of the kids is, they were shy, they may have been they're shy, not comfortable in front of other people and talking. And almost every one of them talks about how this program helped them build their self-confidence, build their self-esteem, and become confident speakers in public and with others. And that's like a constant I hear from parents. And I think it goes back to the structure of the program, how it's built, the funny thing about drill, and we public speaking is part of the program, at the unit level and eventually at the larger level, and we put kids in charge of things. I always say it's age appropriate, skill appropriate. Every time you go to drill, you should do something you'd never done before so that you're building your self-confidence, a step at a time over the years. And you just produce these really confident young people that represent them well. That's a common refrain I hear from people that interact with our young Marines. They'll always come back to me. I was like, wow, yeah, kid looked me in the eye, shook my hand, and they introduced themselves, and wow, and I appreciate that because it means that we're doing right by these children and for their parents that entrust us with their children.
So what keeps you personally passionate about serving in this role? How many years have you been and why do you keep doing it? What do you see that makes you so excited about it?
Yeah, I'm lucky. I'm one of those nine paid guys, but yeah, this is quite the job. It's, just like our volunteers are evenings and weekends. Myself, the deputy, many of our staff, we're available evenings and weekends because that's where we meet our volunteers.
Mhm.
But what I just said is why.
Mhm.
It's the children. It is watching anytime I escape, from my little office here in Virginia and get out in the field and hang out with the young Marines, that's the moto fuel. And
Mhm.
that's the moto fuel. I've got people that it starts. This was me. My older son was in the program in the late 90s. You start off as a volunteer. Next thing you know, you're the training guy, and the next thing you know, hey Bill, can you run the unit for a little while? I'm like, yeah, okay, but I'm getting transferred to Virginia, so I'll turn it over next year. But it's the children, and over time. We were having an adult conference a couple months ago, and I'm like, okay, how many of you have bought wedding gifts for your former young Marines? And everyone puts their hand in the air. How many of you bought baby shower gifts? Yeah, your hands in the air. You just get this opportunity to see the promise of American youth and the promise of the future and build the people that as our generation gets to retire eventually and go do something else, you feel good that you're turning it over to some really capable young people that you helped inspire, transform, motivate, and build up to be those great citizens. And that is the moto fuel. And I still stay in touch. Shoot, the first young Marine of the Year had Lucas Ward. He is a staff sergeant in the Marine Corps down in Norfolk. Every once in a while, I'll stay in touch. I got another one who is right now in DC. He is going to be a foreign service officer for the Department of State, representing America
Mhm.
to foreign governments. I think he's going to Mexico first.
Mhm.
I got another one who's a paralegal. She was going to go into teaching, but then she decided to go in paralegal, maybe politics. Other ones, I know one that I just did a letter of recommendation. She's going to be a sheriff down in Orlando.
Mhm.
So you just have this. So like I said, I have a couple of boys, and then I have all these other kids that I've engaged with and encountered over the years. You just watch them out, and it just gives you a sense of pride and motivation to keep doing this and to continue to support the volunteers
Mhm.
who do this out of their free time, their vacation time, to help take care of kids around the country.
Awesome. So, as we wrap up here, give us just your last bit of advice for parents who want their kids to be more disciplined, more confident. Like they're thinking, okay, Young Marines sounds like a great option. Why should they add it to their schedule? They have a lot on their plates. Kind of give us that
Yeah,
last plug.
yeah.
What would you say to
Yeah,
parents?
yeah. Like I said, yeah, this can suck up, a lot of your weekends. I mean, I was laughing before we got on the
Mhm.
call. I was telling you, every weekend in June, I was at some young Marine type related activity. But not every. Most units do it every other weekend, and then they'll do special events like we talked about throughout the year. What I would say primarily is, hey, obviously I'm biased. I think we have a great program. I think we have an extremely unique program. No one else focuses on drug demand reduction like we do. No one else provides that education to parents and kids to avoid, accidental overdoses or the issues we have to. It's a very dangerous world we live in. You see it all the time in the news. But, the fitness component, the personal development, the focus on leadership, all those things make us a unique and great program. But I would say it doesn't have to be young Marines, but get your children in some kind of structured program. Sports is good. I'm all about team building that comes with sports, but you need more than just the athleticism. You need more than just the development. And there's a great book. Sebastian Jung wrote this book called Tribe, and it's a good read because it's the importance of feeling that you belong to some kind of a community with a positive purpose. And if children don't belong to a positive community of purpose, they will wander off into something probably less than positive
Mhm.
because there's that wanting to be belonging. And it can't be a virtual group. It's got to be a live group. The virtual doesn't meet the basic human needs. The science and the studies will play out. You can read it all over. That's a whole other conversation.
Mhm.
But belonging to a positive group of people. That's why when you mentioned the co-ops,
Mhm.
homeschooling, that's awesome. Yeah, the kids need to get there with other kids and learn that socialization, have those interactions and activities, and develop as a human more like. So that's my bottom takeaway. Hey, I'm all about, hey, come join Young Marines, start a unit, hoorah. but no matter what you do, make sure your kids are with a group that is a positive, kind of holistic, some kind of activity group where they go out and do things. They're challenged emotionally, physically to do something new because that will build their resilience and that will build their confidence so they can be successful in life.
That's great advice. So, where can listeners find out more or get involved? Where would you like them to go?
Yeah, the website's great entry point. www. I don't even have to say that. That's old school. It's old school when you still
Yeah.
say the www, right? But youngmarines.org will
Yes.
get you to the site. And again, you can find locations, but there's also there if you want to start a unit, it'll get you on the path. And again, you're not going to get a robocall when you call the office. Okay, if we're busy, you might get a thing,
Mhm.
but it is live, interpersonal. We have a team that helps people develop units. If you
Mhm.
want to develop a unit, give us a call. We will talk you through that and see if it can work out.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Colonel, for joining us today and telling our homeschool families about the Young Marines. We appreciate you.
Abby, I truly appreciate you for giving us this opportunity to get the word out. We're small. Any chance we can talk to any large group, I'm all about it. So thank you very much. And thanks for what you're doing. Because again, it's all about helping this generation
Mhm.
survive it and thrive in it.
Amazing. Thanks. What a great program. I'm so excited to have brought you this information about the Young Marines. Homeschoolers are the perfect demographic to create their own unit. So definitely reach out to them. Remember, they are at youngmarines.org, and you can go to our show notes where we will link to them and everything else from this episode. The show notes are at 4onemore.com/319. Thanks for joining us today. And in the meantime, happy homeschooling.